On January 5th, 2007, Republican Congressman Paul Eugene Gilmore from the 5th District of Ohio presented House Resolution 33 to Congress. The official, very long title of this bill is Recognizing the Thousands of Freemasons in Every State in the Nation and Honoring Them for Their Many Contributions to the Nation Throughout Its History. Mr. Gilmore's bill captures the realization that Freemasons were heavily involved with many major events in the history of the United States. The bill has several points, and they read as follows. Point 1. Recognizing the thousands of Freemasons in every state in the nation and honoring them for their many contributions to the nation throughout its history. Point 2. Whereas Freemasons, whose long lineage extends back to before the nation's founding, have set an example of high moral standards and charity for all people. Point 3. Whereas the founding fathers of this great nation and signers of the Constitution, most of whom were Freemasons, provided a well-rounded basis for developing themselves and others into valuable citizens of the United States. Point 4. Whereas members of the Masonic fraternity, both individually and as an organization, continue to make invaluable charitable contributions of service to the United States. Point 5. Whereas the Masonic fraternity continues to provide for the charitable relief and education of the citizens of the United States. Point 6. Whereas the Masonic fraternity is deserving of formal recognition of their long history of caregiving for the citizenry and their example of high moral standards. And point 7. Whereas Freemasons have always revered and celebrated St. John's Day, June 24th, as dedicated to their patron saints. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the House of Representatives recognizes the thousands of Freemasons in every state in the nation and honors them for their many contributions to the nation throughout its history. The intent of this bill is clearly to honor the fraternity not only for its influence, but also its philanthropy. The teachings of the Brotherhood are usually summed up in the idea that a Freemason is responsible for making the world a better place. A major contributor to that teaching is charity. About $1.4 million is donated every day in the United States in order to make the world a better place. In just about every community in the country, there are Freemasons involving themselves in a very positive way. The principles of Freemasonry include brotherly love, relief, and truth. Many of you may even know Freemasons. You may even be related to them. You may know and be proud of or even grateful for their contributions. One would think that Freemasonry would be just about universally regarded as a beneficial and virtuous organization. Unfortunately for the Brotherhood, they do not always get positive reviews. In fact, some of the accusations go so far as to claim these people are diabolical Satanists bent on world domination. How could such a beneficial organization be so condemned? As stated by House Resolution 33, Freemasonry played a major role in the founding of the United States. Anti-Masonic sentiment was largely insignificant until around 1826, when William Morgan disappeared from Batavia, New York, after threatening to reveal Masonic secrets. The events surrounding his disappearance led to Freemasonry membership declining in the United States, many protests of the craft, and even some states passing laws requiring public officials who were members of the craft to reveal their membership. Anti-Masonic sentiment grew, and today you will rarely find a conspiracy theory that does not claim Freemason involvement. One common claim is that the religion of Freemasonry is Luciferianism. Often cited is the renowned Albert Pike, who was a 33rd degree Freemason of the Scottish Rite and Grand Commander for the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States. Allegedly, according to anti-Masons, Albert Pike addressed a council of prominent and leading Freemasons, charging them to promote to the highest degrees of the craft that the religion of Freemasonry is to be Luciferianism, and that the doctrine of Satanism is a heresy. There is a major point that needs to be made here about this claim, and I do intend to explore this idea. But first, I want to see if we can define Luciferianism, and what it would effectively mean to Freemasons if this truly was their religion. I was doing my own independent study on this topic a long time ago, when I first heard the idea that Freemasonry is a Luciferian religion, even though Freemasonry claims to not be a religion. I had my own viewpoints on the meaning of this term. As a fundamentalist Christian, when I heard Luciferianism, I immediately equated that term to Satanism. You can imagine how intrigued I was by this idea at first. However, further study began to reveal that there are significant differences between the two philosophies. This was especially apparent when you understand the context of the alleged statements made by Albert Pike as presented above. Clearly, in his account, Luciferianism and Satanism are regarded as unequal philosophies. Obviously, there is an understood difference, so what is the difference? I chose to look up how Luciferianism is defined on Wikipedia. I learned that Luciferianism is the veneration of the concept or characteristics that the entity referred to as Lucifer stood for, and not the entity itself. This concept can best be described as the advancement of human knowledge and wisdom, the ultimate goal being the transcendence of humanity into divinity. Lucifer is regarded as the bringer of light, rooted from the fact that Lucifer literally means morning star in Latin. It is for this reason that when Freemasons speak of Lucifer, they will claim that they are talking about the morning star and not the traditional person of Lucifer, alluding to what it represents to them. The Age of Enlightenment and the referring to one as being bright are examples of how light is used to represent knowledge and understanding. Luciferians could be said to worship divine wisdom or secret knowledge. This is also what is considered occult, the word coming from the Latin word occultist, which means knowledge of the hidden. The traditional person of Lucifer being equated to Satan stems from the Judeo-Christian concept of Satan and what his role is in mankind. The Bible is often used to link Satan and Lucifer via a few passages. References are made to Satan being the same serpent as the one in the Garden of Eden. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Revelations 22. Satan can also be seen to promote the divinity of mankind, a trait shared with Lucifer. In Genesis chapter 3, Satan is represented as the serpent, as seen here claiming that Adam and Eve can be like God if they eat the forbidden fruit. For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Genesis 3:5. The name Lucifer is mentioned in Isaiah 14:12 in some translations of the Bible. The name is used in translation of the Hebrew word Hillel, which means to bear light. Although on the surface this statement is directed to the king of Babylon, many consider the context to be directed at Satan as well, or at least that the deeper meaning of the text is directed at Satan. Therefore, Lucifer and Satan are thought to be the same. Here you can clearly see the spirit of Luciferianism, the transcendence to godhood, even if this passage is simply directed to a man. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, I will be like the Most High. Isaiah 14:12-14. In this tradition, Lucifer represents the bringer of knowledge and wisdom, and eventually apotheosis, which is divine transcendence. This is essentially the philosophy of Luciferianism. Some followers may actually venerate the physical Lucifer, but in most cases they claim that they don't believe in the actual existence of the entity Lucifer. Satanism, on the other hand, is a little different, but overall not by much. There are many versions of Satanism, of which Luciferianism may be an auxiliary. Traditionally, Satan and Lucifer are regarded as the same being or representation, although some claim the two may be separate individuals. Satanism tends to represent a darker side or left-hand path, where self-indulgence and individualism reign. The stereotypes applied to Satan as being dark and evil are why Luciferians dismiss Satan and Lucifer as being one and the same, believing Lucifer to be a more positive representation. Like Luciferians, not all Satanists believe Satan is a real entity, but rather most believe he is a personification of the characteristics in which they value. Helena Blavatsky, largely regarded as the godmother of the New Age movement, comments on Lucifer often in her writings. It is also clear that in most cases she equates him with Satan, as traditional Christians do, although she seems to regard Lucifer, or Satan, as a more positive character, worthy of reverence as seen in this excerpt from her book, The Secret Doctrine. Quote, "The beings, or the being, collectively called Elohim, or God, who first, if ever, pronounced the cruel words, 'Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil, and now, lest he put forth his hand, and take also of the tree of life, and eat and live forever,' must have been, indeed, the Eldaboth, the demiurge of the Nazarenes, filled with rage and envy against his own creature, whose reflection created Ophiomorphos. In this case, it is but natural, even from the dead letter standpoint, to view Satan, the serpent of Genesis, as the real creator and benefactor, the father of spiritual mankind. For it is he who was the harbinger of light, bright, radiant Lucifer, who opened the eyes of the automation created by Jehovah, as alleged, and he who was the first to whisper, 'In the day ye eat thereof, ye shall be as Elohim, knowing good and evil,' can only be regarded in the light of a Savior." Unquote. So one could view Luciferianism as a philosophy or religion that uses inner wisdom or light to evolve mankind, the ultimate goal being a divine nature, all intentions being for the betterment and advancement of mankind as a whole. So how does this concept apply to Freemasons? The connection to Freemasonry and Luciferianism has been made several ways. The initial teachings of Freemasonry are clear in that they insist the initiates be respectful, honest, responsible, and charitable human beings. Basic Freemasonry involves a craft of 3 degrees, where personal development is expected in order to advance. The initiate uses these degrees to refine and come to their own answers to life's important questions. To go beyond the final or third degree of Master Mason, one must be part of a body of Freemasonry that includes supplemental degrees in order to advance any further, such as the Scottish Rite, the Shriners, or the York Rite. Not all Freemasons are bound by the same constitutions. Therefore, it is important to understand that any conceptual connection made to Freemasonry is not universal. Arguably, the most common reference of a possible connection of Luciferianism to Freemasonry is the book Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry by Albert Pike, intended as a philosophical rationale for the initiates. Until 1974, it was tradition to give this book to the candidate who reaches the 14th degree. Contrary to some disinformation, there is only one place in the book where Lucifer is mentioned by name, and it is often taken out of context or misunderstood. In Volume 1, Chapter 19, page 344, he writes, quote, "The apocalypse is, to those who receive the 19th degree, the apotheosis of that sublime faith which aspires to God alone, and despises all the pomps and works of Lucifer. Lucifer, the light-bearer, strange and mysterious name to give to the spirit of darkness. Lucifer, the son of the morning, is it he who bears the light, and with its splendors intolerable blinds feeble, sensual, or selfish souls? Doubt it not." Unquote. As stated before, this paragraph is often misrepresented as a veneration of Lucifer. However, careful reading reveals its true intent. Rather than veneration, it appears this paragraph is merely presenting Lucifer as a seductive spirit, and that he bears light, which blinds souls. I would suppose that the light is the seduction, and merely explains why the spirit of darkness would be named after a word that translates into bearer of light. Nothing about this passage seems to imply that Albert Pike worships Lucifer, the person, nor does it seem to teach the initiate to worship Lucifer. Albert Pike himself is also accused of making statements alluding to Luciferian beliefs. Supposedly, as Sovereign Pontiff of Universal Freemasonry, Albert Pike addressed the 23 Supreme Confederated Councils of the world with the following statement, quote, "That which we must say to a crowd is, we worship a God, but it is the God that one adores without superstition. To you, Sovereign Grand Inspectors General, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degrees. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. If Lucifer were not God, would Adonai, whose deeds prove his cruelty, perfidy and hatred of man, barbarism and repulsion for science, would Adonai and his priests calumniate him? Yes, Lucifer is God, and unfortunately Adonai is also God, for the eternal law is that there is no light without shade, no beauty without ugliness, no white without black, for the absolute can only exist as two gods, darkness being necessary to the statue and the brake to the locomotive. Thus, the doctrine of Satanism is a heresy, and the true and pure philosophical religion is the belief in Lucifer, the equal of Adonai. But Lucifer, God of light and God of good, is struggling for humanity against Adonai, the God of darkness and evil." Unquote. Throughout my research, this quote has surfaced frequently as definitive proof that today's Freemasons are Luciferians. As a fundamentalist Christian, this seemed to be quite convincing. Here was essentially a confession. However, truth must prevail, and unfortunately this evidence can be discarded entirely when one understands the sources used to validate this claim. In some documentaries, it is claimed to be directly taken out of Morals and Dogma. This idea bothers me most, considering I have both volumes of the book and find this quote nowhere. Most anti-Masonic literature includes this quote as well. Most notably is a book by a French title that I am unable to pronounce, by A.C. de la Rive, published in 1894. This reference sources documents by a person pen-named Leo Taxil, who in 1897 admitted that these documents were fraudulent. Although the details of the hoax can seem a bit nonsense, the fact of the matter remains that the only evidence of this claim ended in a hoax. Nevertheless, this exact quote is commonly used to this day, mostly by my fellow fundamentalist Christians, of whom I expect honesty. Sadly, it seems that the motivations to sell books may be behind this deception. Manly P. Hall, a well-known commentator on Freemasonry and the occult, and honorary 33rd degree Freemason, is also often quoted in his book, The Lost Keys of Freemasonry. In it, he makes a reference to Lucifer that I believe can be up to interpretation. Quote, "When the Mason learns that the key to the warrior on the block is the proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mystery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands, and before he may step onward and upward, he must prove his ability to properly apply his energy. He must follow in the footsteps of his forefather Tubal Cain, who with the mighty strength of the war god hammered his sword into a plowshare." Unquote. Although the reference to Lucifer is there, it is unclear exactly what Hall means by this statement, leaving the uninformed reader to speculate. What are the seething energies of Lucifer when applying this energy? Is this referring to the being or just to light energy? The common evidence presented to prove a Luciferian connection to Freemasonry seems more inconclusive than anything. We don't seem to have enough evidence to make a definite conclusion. I am left to answering the question of this article by analyzing what Freemasons do in comparison to what Luciferianism is. This is important because, as I intend to demonstrate in another article, Luciferianism is fundamentally opposed to Christianity and can be labeled anti-Christian, and that it acts as a counterfeit doctrine as well. As we saw before, Luciferianism is a philosophy or religion that uses inner wisdom or light to evolve mankind, the ultimate goal being a divine nature, all intentions being for the betterment and advancement of mankind as a whole. Do Freemasons fit this definition? We know that an essential part of being one involves self-improvement. We also know that Freemasons intend to make the world a better place by their works. If the intention of Freemasonry was able to be demonstrated to involve the advancement of mankind and its eventual apotheosis, then the case could easily be made that to be a Freemason is to be Luciferian. Instead, that idea is rarely promulgated. At this point, I think it's safe to conclude that a connection to Luciferianism can't be proven. However, there is evidence to suggest that the craft may be an avenue toward Luciferianism, whether intentional or not. There are several historical figures that are admittedly worshippers of Lucifer who have connections to Freemasonry. Although not an actual Freemason, Helena Blavatsky's connection may be found in the fact that she was presented with a certificate of the right of adoption from John Yarker, an English Freemason and occultist. The renowned occultist Aleister Crowley was a member of the fraternity and is well known for his Luciferian beliefs and his connection to modern Satanism. Occultism, Gnosticism, and Luciferianism all seem to be related in that they revere and worship secret knowledge and inner divinity. Although it isn't apparent that these beliefs have influence on Freemasonry, it is apparent that Freemasonry has influence on these beliefs. The concept is called Fringe Freemasonry or Esoteric Freemasonry, and the official position of the fraternity is of disassociation. In conclusion, no definite association of Freemasonry with Luciferianism can be proven. It would be unwise to base any claims on the ones that I described above. Even if Freemasons are diabolical, they have the advantage of plausible deniability, as there is no indisputable evidence. There is the existence of Fringe Freemasonry, which is a product of the devoted study of some Masons, and why, as a fundamentalist Christian, I recommend avoiding the fraternity. But I think that is all we have to stand on. So, to summarize, Luciferianism is a philosophy or religion that uses inner wisdom or light to evolve mankind, the ultimate goal being a divine nature, all intentions being for the betterment and advancement of mankind as a whole. Freemasonry continues to be accused as a Luciferian religion using false material or material taken out of context. Freemasonry beliefs do not completely fulfill our definition of Luciferianism, although the process of self-improvement and study in the craft leads some toward that path, which is considered Fringe Freemasonry. Luciferianism is a belief that venerates the character of Lucifer, and in its nature is anti-Christian. If Freemasonry can lead to Fringe Freemasonry, which can lead to Luciferianism, as Christians it is best to avoid membership.